Hello there and a warm welcome to all of you here on the news at 6 here in Rajya Sabha TV. I'm Tracy Shilshi and let's start with the headlines. All party meetings end in a deadlock. Stage set for confrontation in Parliament as opposition sticks to its demand for resignations in the Lalit Modi controversy and the Vyapam scam. BJP Parliamentary Party executive meets to decide strategy for the monsoon session. Government indicates that it will not be on the defensive on any issue. The 46th Indian Labour Conference starts in New Delhi. Prime Minister Modi assures the government will carry out reforms through consensus with labour organisations. And after remaining shut for 3 weeks, banks reopen in Greece with limits on withdrawals and checks on payments and wire transfers abroad. The top story this evening, the stage seems set for a government-opposition confrontation in Parliament. 2 all-party meetings held on the eve of the monsoon session today ended in a deadlock over the Vyapam scam, the Lalit Modi controversy and the land acquisition bill. The government has offered to discuss all issues in Parliament, even as it rejected the opposition's demand for resignations of its leaders named in the Vyapam and Lalit Gate controversies.
41 leaders from 29 political parties came together on Monday to discuss the agenda of the monsoon session of Parliament that begins on 21st July. However, despite 2 marathon 2-hour-long meetings, the deadlock remained. While the main opposition party, Congress, continued to press for action against BJP leaders named in the Vyapam and Lalit Gate issues, the government rejected the demands for resignations of any of its leaders.
There is no question of accepting any ultimatum. Nobody can dictate to Parliament. Parliament is sovereign. We are an independent country. And this government has got a clear-cut majority. We are concerned, we have nothing to hide. We are very clear and we hope that the Parliament, which has functioned in a most effective, meaningful manner in the last 1 year, should repeat the same performance.
सब कुछ निर्भर होता है किस पॉलिटिकल पार्टी की चमड़ी कितनी मोटी। हमारे मुख्यमंत्रियों या मंत्रियों पर आरोप लगते थे, जिस तरह के तो मेरे हजारों करोड़ों आरोप रोज लगते होंगे। तो यहाँ तो घोटाला नहीं, मिलियंस और बिलियंस का घोटाला।
The land acquisition bill also remained an issue of contention, with smaller parties expressing reservations on several amendments brought by the government.
लैंड जो बिल है वो निश्चित तौर पर जो हमारा पहले से भी रहा है, ये देश के किसान और भारत की जो परिस्थिति है उसमें खेत नहीं है तो देश कहाँ से होगा। इसलिए इस बिल को हम मानते नहीं हैं और सरकार ने भी कहा कि इस पर हर तरह का बातचीत करके हम इसका रास्ता निकालें। सदन चलेगा लेकिन सरकार जो है वो चर्चा को होने दे।
लैंड बिल जो इन्होंने संशोधन किया है उससे समाजवादी पार्टी सहमत नहीं है। उसमें गवर्नमेंट अगर कुछ पीछे हटेगी तो हो सकता है कि कोई काम बने। जब इस तरह की मीटिंग होती हैं उसमें हमेशा यही कहा जाता है कि हाउस चले और हाउस चलेगा और सब यही कहते हैं, लेकिन व्यवहार में इसके बिल्कुल विपरीत होता है। इसलिए आई डोंट थिंक सो कि मामला ठीक रहेगा सदन में। मौसम खराब अभी से लग रहा है।
Urging cooperation from all parties, Lok Sabha Speaker Sumitra Mahajan also expressed hope that House proceedings would run smoothly.
अभी तो सबने कहा है कि हम सहयोग करेंगे। अब देखो विपक्ष को अपनी बात भी तो कभी जोरदार करना ही होती है, तो वो मर्यादा में रह करके वो करे, ऐसी अपील हमने करी है।
With the government having lined up a number of important bills for the monsoon session, the Prime Minister also appealed to all parties for their cooperation. He said the government was willing to discuss any issue on the floor of the House as per rules and procedures. Vishal Dahiya, Rajya Sabha TV, Delhi.
And the Joint Committee of Parliament examining the controversial land acquisition bill has been given, in fact, a fresh extension to submit its report. It is now time till the first week of August. This is the second extension sought by the committee, which was originally mandated to table its report in the first day of the monsoon session.
उन्होंने समय मांगा है क्योंकि उनका कहना है हमें कुछ बातें गवर्नमेंट से भी करना है और हमें समय चाहिए। उसको ऑलरेडी हमने पहले समय बढ़ा के दिया था, अभी फिर से उनका आया है कि हमें और थोड़ा समय, तो अगस्त के फर्स्ट वीक में उसके आने की संभावना है लैंड बिल का।
Well, it is going to be 3 weeks of a monsoon session of political rumblings, chaos and whatnot. We've got our correspondents, of course, tracking all those developments. Today itself, we've got Vishal Dahiya and Shyam Sundar joining us now from the scene of where meetings, of course, have taken place. Vishal, of course, tracking those two all-party meetings. If I could come to you first, Vishal, what is the strategy really of the opposition? Just go ahead, demand what you have to, and it seems like, at the moment, the strength is with them.
Well, yes, and indeed, one might see that the opposition parties, if you look at them one by one, then there might be a feeling that all political parties, specifically those on the opposition bench, are talking about different issues, while the smaller regional parties are focusing more on land acquisition bill and several other issues. But the main opposition, Congress, seems to be focusing more on corruption cases against the BJP leaders, such as the Vyapam case as well as the Lalit Gate issue. So this might seem that they're going in different directions, but one thing which unites all these parties on the opposition benches is the very fact that the last aim, or rather the main aim, seems to be to try and corner the government, to seek or elicit answers from the government on several issues. So obviously the government will have to think, or rather devise a strategy as to how will they go ahead and approach all these issues. One suggestion which has come in, or rather one idea which seems to have been floated in the ruling party, is that the government should go ahead and answer all the questions which are raised, and specifically the MOS for Parliamentary Affairs, Rajiv Pratap Rudy, pointed out today that the External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj, who has been embroiled in the Lalit Gate controversy, had expressed a desire yesterday in that party meeting to go ahead and make a suo motu statement on the floor of the House, or whenever the issue is raised, to try and reply to that particular issue. So obviously all these kind of tactics will be deployed by the government. But as far as opposition is concerned, one thing which is quite certain from the Congress's point of view is the fact that they are in no mood to budge from their stand of seeking resignations from at least those high-profile leaders of the ruling party who have been involved in scams like Vyapam and Lalit Gate and the rice scam in Chhattisgarh. So that is one particular stand from which the Congress is not coming down. The government has made it clear that there is no question of any of their leaders stepping down from their present posts, be it the chief ministers or the cabinet ministers. So obviously this is going to be a showdown starting from day one itself. But one thing which all of us will have to wait and watch is to whether or not there would be some meeting ground for these two sides, because there are other issues as well. The regional parties have also pointed out that they have a number of issues which they want to go ahead and discuss.
Yeah, but will they eventually get time? Will they eventually get time to work out on the smaller issues, considering how it's turning out to be just Lalit Gate, Vyapam and the land bill? If I could come to you quickly, Shyam, you're of course tracking that BJP Parliamentary Party executive meeting that's taking place at the PM's residence at the moment. What is it that you're hearing at the moment? One demand that has been of the opposition, apart from the resignations, is also, that Prime Minister Modi needs to make some statement. He has been, quite silent on the entire issue of all these controversies. Do we hear anything from him or not at all?
Well, Tracy, let me tell you first that this is the first meeting of parliamentary executive in last 1 year. This forum was always there when BJP was in opposition. This forum used to meet, but in last 1 year, this is the first meeting, and we can make out from this meeting that government is taking very, very seriously that the challenges posed by the opposition in the parliament. And yes, of course, one of the main attacks of opposition is that why Mr. Narendra Modi is silent on the Vyapam issue, why Mr. Narendra Modi is silent on the Vasundhara Raje issue when opposition is asking for resignation, even if it is the official position of BJP that they are not going to ask for resignations from their chief minister, but at least Prime Minister should make a statement. Opposition is saying that Prime Minister is going abroad and addressing diaspora there, but he is not speaking in the country. So if BJP understands that it is very, very important for BJP to make parliament parliament function, because if parliament is not functioning, then laws are not made, and if laws are not made, Modi's slogan of ease of doing business and make in India, nothing works. So it is a very, very serious issue for BJP, and that's why not only this meeting is happening in last 1 year, for the first time NDA would be meeting to discuss parliament session here in 7 RCR.
All right, all right. Two very crucial meetings still taking place or to take place. Thanks so much to both of you for joining us. We'll continue tracking developments here on Rajya Sabha TV. In fact, one crucial aspect also of these opposition, at least, that we'll be seeing is coming in from the left parties. They, of course, held nationwide protests today ahead of the monsoon session to highlight corruption cases under BJP rule. The left has questioned the government deciding to back both its CMs, Vasundhara Rajya and Shivraj Singh Chauhan. They've also questioned the Prime Minister's silence, despite the BJP repeatedly saying that it was ready to discuss any issue in Parliament.
If the Prime Minister is ready to discuss all these issues of corruption, why has the Prime Minister remained quiet in the last 2 months, did not open his mouth on any of issues of corruption?
We are demanding all tainted ministers, including Srimati Swaraj, and everybody should resign, should quit. If they don't do, the Prime Minister should take action against them. And in the Parliament, we will raise this issue in a very strong way. Outside Parliament, we will continue to fight against corruption.
All right, we had a quick break here, but still ahead. The Supreme Court allows state authorities to file charge sheets in the Vyapam scam by Thursday. Details of that ahead.
All eyes on Parliament's monsoon session starting tomorrow. Crucial bills versus controversies galore. What's the government's strategy? How will it tackle the opposition onslaught? Watch The Big Picture at 6:30 p.m. on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back. Now, with trade unions posing stiff opposition to proposed labour reforms, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has assured them that any changes in laws will be carried out only after consultations with them. He said this as he inaugurated the 46th Indian Labour Conference in the national capital.
कानूनों में कोई जोड़ना होगा, कुछ निकालना होगा, वो भी सहमति से करने का प्रयास करते ही रहना चाहिए और निरंतर प्रक्रिया चलती रही है, आगे भी चलती रहने वाली है.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi allaying apprehensions of labour unions in his speech at the 46th Indian Labour Conference. The government has also set up a high-level inter-ministerial committee under Finance Minister Arun Jaitley. This committee is to hold discussions with trade unions on issues concerning labour, the first of which was held on Sunday.
श्रम संगठनों के साथ लगातार बातचीत चल रही है और त्रिपक्षीय बातचीत के आधार पर ही आगे बढ़ रहे हैं. कई पुरानी गुत्थियां हैं, सुलझानी है और मुझे विश्वास है कि देश के श्रमिकों के आशीर्वाद से इन गुत्थियों को समझाने में हम सफल होंगे और समस्याओं का समाधान करने में हम कोई न कोई रास्ते खोलते चलेंगे और सहमति से कानूनों का भी परिवर्तन करना होगा.
An efficient economy will always protect the interest of the country's economy, the interest of industry, the interest of labor. Sluggish industries will never be able to create jobs. It's only efficient industries which will be able to create jobs.
The Prime Minister also called out for a balanced approach towards dealing with issues related to labour and industry. He also asked for an increase in the number of apprentices in the country, saying this was the need of the hour.
भारत को आगे बढ़ाना है तो हमारे स्किल को काम में लाने के लिए ये हमें अवसर देना पड़ेगा. सरकारों ने, उद्योगकारों ने भी सोचना होगा. इसलिए कि कानून के दायरे में फंस जाएंगे, इसलिए कोई अप्रेंटिसशिप किसी को देनी नहीं, किसी नौजवान को अवसर नहीं देना। ये उद्योग कार्य जो दरवाजे बंद करके बैठे हैं, मैं नहीं मानता हूं ये लंबे अरसे तक दरवाजे बंद करके बैठ पाएंगे।
Center stage at the conference was the feeling that rapid economic growth cannot be achieved at the cost of workers, while the Prime Minister called for simplification of labour laws, saying currently they were so complex that they were open to different interpretations. With Pranav Goswami, Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
All right, now let's get you the latest in the Vyapam scam. And the Madhya Pradesh Assembly was today adjourned amid the opposition's insistence to condole the people who died in suspicious circumstances in the scam. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court allowed state authorities to file charge sheets in the cases by Thursday.
The Supreme Court on Monday allowed the Special Investigation Team and the Special Task Force of Madhya Pradesh Police to file charge sheets in all Vyapam scam cases till matters are transferred to the CBI.
कोर्ट ने ये एग्री किया है कि अगले 2-3 दिन में जिनका भी टाइम पीरियड एक्सपायर हो रहा है उसके अंदर वो चालान पेश कर सकते हैं और ये अब केस उन्होंने हियरिंग के लिए फ्राइडे को लगा दिया है। तब सीबीआई आकर ये भी बताएगी कोर्ट में कि अब उनको टोटल टेक ओवर करने में कितना टाइम लगेगा।
On Thursday, the CBI had petitioned that the transfer of over 185 Vyapam scam cases from the SIT to CBI would take time. If charge sheets weren't filed within 90 days, the accused could get compulsory bail on account of default. Appearing for Congress leader Digvijay Singh, senior advocate Kapil Sibal sought time to file a reply to the plea of the CBI. The bench fixed the matter for further hearing on July 24th.
शिवराज सिंह चौहान जो खुद कह रहे हैं कि 1000 नियुक्तियां हुई हैं, वो जेल से बाहर क्यों हैं? ये सारे उत्तर हम माननीय नरेंद्र मोदी जी से जानना चाहते हैं।
In Madhya Pradesh, the opening day of monsoon session was adjourned after opposition members insisted on paying respects to TV journalist Akshay Singh and MBBS student Namrata Damor, who died under mysterious circumstances after the Vyapam scam was exposed. However, Parliamentary Affairs Minister Narottam Mishra said if members can only raise issues not mentioned in the list of business with prior permission of the Speaker.
जिसको यूनेस्को श्रद्धांजलि दे चुका, उसको मध्य प्रदेश की विधानसभा देने में घबरा रही है कि मुख्यमंत्री विदा हों, किसी और को चार्ज मिले तो ज्यादा अच्छा है। हम सदन चलाना चाहते हैं।
बिल्कुल बेवजह राजनीति कर रहा है। जब तक सीबीआई की रिपोर्ट नहीं आती, कुछ कहना ठीक नहीं है।
The job scam is likely to figure prominently during the monsoon session in Parliament, where opposition plans to target the government on the Vyapam issue. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And now let's get you some more national news in Nationwide. Prime Minister Narendra Modi launched the National Career Counselling Portal that aims at modernizing all government-run employment exchanges. The facility will create a direct marketplace for workers and employers. The centralized portal will be supported by career centers where prospective candidates can come for free counselling from government-certified counsellors and psychologists. In a fresh ceasefire violation, Pakistani troops targeted several Indian posts along the LOC in J&K's Poonch district. It was the 7th ceasefire violation by Pakistani troops since the 15th of July. One person was killed and 16 injured in the firing from across the border. Gold plunged 4% to its lowest in more than 5 years today as sellers in China sold off the yellow metal as the bullion's safe haven status took a fresh knock from mounting expectations of a US rate hike. More than 1 million lots were traded on a key contract on the Shanghai Gold Exchange compared to less than 27,000 lots on Friday. The death toll in the building collapse in West Delhi rose to 5 today, even as the BJP-controlled SDMC suspended 3 engineers. Area residents complained that there was little coordination between the rescue operations at the building collapse site. International news now, and the US and Cuba will formally renew diplomatic ties at midnight on Monday, reopening embassies in each other's capitals. The Cuban flag is to be hoisted at Havana's embassy in Washington for the first time in 54 years. The US embassy in Cuba, meanwhile, will get underway almost simultaneously. But despite the historic shift in ties and ushering in of the post-Cold War era, both sides agreed there are still significant differences to be resolved.
One last remaining holdover of the Cold War will slip into history books. The Cuban flag is all set to fly over American soil for the first time since 1961 in Havana's newly upgraded embassy in Washington. just a stone's throw from the White House. The US Embassy in Cuba will also take off, though the US flag will fly there only next month. Moves to normalizing relations on that rough last mile.
We're opening embassies. We're going to have now a normal dialogue between one another. But the embargo is still in place. And we won't have normal relations so long as it is. And the Cubans are insisting that we lift the embargo.
A trade embargo banning most American companies from doing business in Cuba remains a big hurdle. Lifting it has to get through Congress first, an uphill challenge for President Obama. Then there is restrictions on Cuban tourists in America. Yet the embassy opening does signal a movement forward. For many, it is a ray of hope.
Y era Eddie, y Eddie Disley, figúrate tú. Eso es inolvidable. Yo decía, ay, Caridad del Cobre, ¿qué es esto? Y entonces me abrazaron, me besaron y con Eddie venía el chiquitico de ella.
I like the normalization of relations. I just think it's good.
Addition of the Cuban flag to the row of nations in the lobby of US State Department is another major symbolic gesture. The US is also to pull back tight security cordons around its mission in Havana. Big breakthroughs and the decision to reopen diplomatic ties had come in December last year, and normalization has been high on agenda on both sides since. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
All right, for more on this, we're joined by former diplomat Rajiv Dogra, in fact, joining us from the capital. Sir, thanks so much for joining us here on the news at 6. Give us a sense as far as the importance of this is concerned, especially for the Obama administration. Quite a big diplomatic achievement there for him.
Well, let me do a bit of reverse swing, since cricket terminology is in fashion. At the end of it, one wonders, what was it all about? Why were the tensions there? For 55 long years, America had virtually shut out Cuba from itself and also in a way from the rest of the world by making it a pariah state. Whereas, if you look at the presidential elections even, the Cuban Americans are a significant factor. And through the Cuban Americans and their sentiments, the Latinos who are settled in America are another significant factor. And Latinos feel strongly for what is happening to the Cubans. So sometimes one wonders whether this kind of animosity is stretched a bit too far and without logic, at least to the outside world. Now that they are marching towards normal relations, there is still the issue of trade embargo. Now, that may be a concession by Obama to his Congress, but I don't think that is going to last long, especially because once the presidential elections are over, the new president would definitely want to lift that last hurdle. But for countries which are so close together and in many ways are tied in their limited civilization together, this kind of a boycott made no sense at all.
All right. We do understand that President Obama, of course, is ushering in this. He's giving, he's so-called trying to make it imply like the US is opening up its hearts, it's giving a generous hand to Cuba. Is there some sort of skepticism that we're also seeing on the part of Cuba? Is that the kind of sense that you're getting, at least from that country?
Well, let's look at it in a couple of other ways also, because there is a Pope who's a Latino. And he was definitely instrumental in this opening because some of the back channel talks were held courtesy Vatican and courtesy Pope's own involvement. So Cuba must now be hesitant to take a further step forward in this presidential year because they won't like the floodgates to open. After all, Cuba is not exactly a capitalist state. It is not exactly a democratic state, whereas Americans tend to monopolize whichever relationship they enter into. So I think Cuba is being cautious, and rightly cautious, in taking one step at a time and measuring the success or failure of that step. So from Cuban point of view, it makes sense not to let the floodgates open, because otherwise they'll be swamped by Coca-Cola and McDonald's, and besides influencing their culture, they will turn the entire system of economy upside down in America's favor. So it's a good thing that Cuba is being mature about it and is being cautious about it.
All right. And very quickly, what's the kind of reaction that we're getting from the other global countries, from the other world powers? Are they looking at this as a positive step? Are they a bit, are they a bit skeptic? Is there any kind of apprehension? What is it that you're getting?
Well, you're absolutely right in putting in the external dimension to this bilateral equation, because after all, it was Cold War which started this embargo and which started this boycott. You would remember that the famous missile crisis of 1961, and before that, that Bay of Pigs. So now, Soviet Union at that time was an active participant. Soviet Union is no longer there. There's a truncated Russia, which is also not exactly the first-rate power in the sense that America is still today. So Russia would naturally be feeling a bit of satisfaction that this senseless boycott has come to an end. But Russia can no longer be in the same position as in 1960 of placing its missiles there, because it has no interest or nor that power. So the outside world looks at it, if I may put it in that fashion, in a little bemused manner, and Russia in particular would feel that it is a sort of a vindication for it.
All right. We'll leave it there for the moment, Mr. Dogra. Thanks so much for joining us with those details there. All right, in more international news, Greek banks reopened today after remaining shut for nearly 3 weeks. However, limits on withdrawals will continue to be in place. Payments and wire transfers abroad are also not possible. Along with many restrictions, Greeks will also face price rises with an increase in the value-added tax or VAT. Meanwhile, Germany said it may consider further debt concessions to Greece. The cash-strapped country has begun making its €4.2 billion payment due to the European Central Bank, as well as the €2.05 billion that are due to the International Monetary Fund on Monday. And in some quick sports news, FIFA will hold presidential elections to choose Sepp Blatter's successor on the 25th of February 2016. The decision was taken by FIFA's executive committee that met earlier today. The move follows Blatter's decision to resign 4 days after being re-elected in May this year. The 79-year-old FIFA chief had confirmed at the time that he would remain in the position until a special election can be held to appoint his successor. UEFA boss Michel Platini has been asked by a majority of world football chiefs to stand for FIFA presidency. And that's all we have for you on the news at 6. Thanks so much for joining us.